welcome the people who are just joining us.
So, we don't have to struggle to find our road at all. We are just enjoying some time in the open areas. We're going to make our way towards that thick clump of trees that's up ahead that lines the Great Mara River that we have to say has not been all that great over the course of the last few days. It is looking very low indeed. So, it is now the opportunity for me to greet those of you who have joined us on the various social media platforms. If this is your first time on Safari, my name is Jamie. This afternoon, Adrian is on camera with me, and we're going to take you on a live safari adventure. We term it an adventure because it always is. There's always something exciting happening. At the moment, we are in the Maasai Mara. We will also be transporting you to the wilderness in South Africa to enjoy the animals there as well. And please feel free, because this is a live safari, to ask as many questions and comment as much as you would like. Right, so with that out of the way, I think we're going to carry on. There's a herd of elephants that's coming closer, dare I say. Unfortunately, they're all quite far away from the road at the moment, and this is an area where we cannot off-road, so we can't get any closer. But I always enjoy spending my afternoon with elephants. There's always something to look at. There's a herd of about 200 off to my left. You can't see them at the moment because they're pretty much behind me. Which way are you going to go, lovely lady? This way, by the looks of things. I think we should sit tight, because I think they're going to come straight towards the swamp. So if we pop ourselves over here, we should get them coming closer towards us. A herd with a tuskless female. Oh, the one on the right is almost certainly born that way. So she doesn't have any tusks. There's a possibility that she broke them off at the base, but it's unlikely. Usually when elephants break their tusks, there's a little bit of them still sticking out. So chances are she is one of the 4% of elephants that are born without tusks. Here we've got an example of an elephant with one tusk. That could be genetic, or that could be that she broke off one of her tusks. So it is a rare thing, but it is a natural thing for certain elephants to be born without tusks. It doesn't hamper them too much. One might think that, look, elephant tusks are very useful to them, but they don't have to have them. They are used largely where the females are concerned for digging, maybe defense, but essentially when you weigh 4 or 5 tons, any kind of weaponry isn't all that necessary. You just need the sheer bulk of your body when it comes to defending yourself. Elephants without tusks are not hampered all that much. They can't dig and they can't scrape along bark, but usually the rest of the herd will scrape bits of bark that they can then pull off with their trunks. Male tuskless elephants probably are at slightly more of a disadvantage because they can't use them, or they can't battle with other males. There is, of course, a reason why so few elephants are born without tusks. There is a degree of disadvantage involved. Now, Tom, let's just chat a little bit about the fact that we have 3 different species of elephants. That is now something that has been established. Now, we've got the African bush elephant and the African forest elephant, and then of course we've got the Asian elephant as well. Now, Tom's question is, can the Asian and the African elephant interbreed? Can they breed with each other? And potentially, actually, in a situation like that, which is the next step of the question, do they produce any kind of fertile offspring? Or is it a situation like when you breed a mule? And in fact, between African elephants and Asian elephants, as far as I know, they cannot interbreed. So there are sufficient genetic differences that means that they cannot, and probably unless in a very artificial situation, would never actually try to interbreed. I suppose they would only ever encounter each other in an artificial situation. But they are genetically distinct enough that they do not really interbreed. There was one crossbreed between an Asian elephant and an African elephant. I cannot remember for the life of me. It was either a zoo elephant or a circus elephant. I can't remember. And it was a very, very rare example. I think it's the one and only case where the two species have been bred successfully. I can hear lots of trumpeting in the distance. Come on, ladies. They were advancing so steadily in our direction, and now they've decided to stop and linger. They'll get here, though. Just listening to the sounds of baboons fighting in the background. Unfortunately, I think they're on the other side of the river. We won't manage to show them to you. I was really hoping for some baboons today. Baboons are a bit like elephants. Always busy with something. Always something to talk about. Now, remember how I mentioned that we would be joined by our crew in South Africa? Well, they are up and running, so I think it's time to send you across to Tristan so he can say hello to you all, and of course so that he can share what he has planned for the afternoon ahead of you.
Well, good afternoon everybody, and welcome to sunny South Africa. It is a very warm, very hot day here, and well, this looks like we're going to get some relief from some clouds, which will be really quite wonderful. Now, I'm sure, as Jamie mentioned, my name is Tristan. On camera today I've got a Fergus, there we go, the captain salute, and he is going to be a captain because hopefully we'll be able to get the drone out at some point during the course of this drive, which will be very fun. Now, remember, we are live and interactive, so now that you've joined us here in South Africa, we expect lots and lots of questions on this side of the world. And I want to actually ask a question of all of you. And so those of you that watch the dam cam, I want to know if anybody got any audio for a warthog squealing, because some of the staff said that they thought they had heard a warthog squealing for quite some time, as though it was being throttled by a spotted cat or any cat in general. So I want to try and hear if anybody heard anything or whether they saw anything on the dam cam. So remember, you can do that on #SafariLive on Twitter or the YouTube chat should you want to. We're in the kind of general vicinity, just trying to see what we can find. That's going to be our plan for the afternoon, is just hang around here. I believe this morning there was tracks for leopards in every direction around the camp, and Hukumuri was seen last night, and Tumba was around the camp. So we're going to just try and scratch around and see around this area if maybe one of those two is still hanging about, or in fact if there's any other leopards that are around here. And it's also a good place to be because of the hot weather that we're having. It's going to attract quite a number of animals down towards the little water hole that is pumped close to the lodge there, so it's going to be a good place to check. Probably also end up down towards Treehouse at some point, and then we'll finish up hopefully with a school drive later and with some sort of animal for the kids in the later half of the show. So that's the plans for this afternoon. Fergus, what do you think? Do you think we're going to be successful? Of course, yes. Fergus is somewhat of a lucky charm. I tend to drive with Fergus and see some very cool things, so I always enjoy having Fergus aboard. Not only does he bring good luck, but he's a fine gentleman, and so it's always nice to have him on board. It's always a bit of a laugh and good company, so hopefully it'll be a nice afternoon. I think it will be. It seems like it's going to get a bit cloudy and kind of cool off, which will be quite nice. Right, now we're going to, like I say, carry on looking for this mystery squeal that happened earlier, and so while I do that, I'm going to send you across to Allie, which is always quite nice because I haven't driven with Allie for quite some time, so that she can say good afternoon to all of you and let you know what her plans are for the afternoon.
Good day indeed to everyone. Very happy to be out and about, although I nearly dropped my mic, which wouldn't have been ideal because we had some issues earlier on. My name is Allie, and on camera with me today is Senzo, and we are very happy to have you guys join us on a drive this afternoon. We don't have much of a plan for the time being. We're just going to carry on and enjoy this cool breeze that is finally coming through after a very, very, very hot day in about, I would say, the 40s. That would be 140, I think, if that's not scorching hot in Fahrenheit. I hope that my math is right. If you've got any questions or comments, please feel free to send them through either on the comment section below on the social media platform that you're using, or of course using the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. Now, seeing Tristan took the chance to go and follow up on that particular squeal, hopefully there will be a leopard or a cat of some sorts attached to the squeal, we've decided that we're going to go around, and I'm on a mission to go see Warthog Dam, because I haven't been there in quite a while, so I'm hoping we'll catch some elephants in there, and then we'll go down, see if perhaps the lions that were on a reserve just next to us, but just out of reach, if maybe perhaps they've closed down. 104 Fahrenheit. Okay, I might have, almost cooked myself with my math there. Not ideal. Right. So here we go. Gonna carry on moving in this general direction. I should just stay away from trying to do math and converting between inches and feet to centimeters and meters, and I don't know. I missed that class in school, so I've never been able to do that math. Now let's see what else we can see around this particular area. There haven't been any leopard tracks that I've picked up so far, and after this morning's mayhem, who knows where they are. Mia, you're wondering if there's a speed limit in Juma. Well, yes. So in theory, we shouldn't be going over 20 or 30 kilometers an hour, just because then it's too fast, and you've got to be careful, because at any point an antelope or whatever animal actually can come running across the road, and if you're going try to minimize the speed where you can go at, just to make sure that, well, first of all, you don't miss any tracks of anything that you're looking for, but also you don't harm yourself or nature or the animals around you. So you've got to be very careful when you drive around. And also my favorite saying for all the reserves is animals have right of way. So whenever you come across a certain area, they can also go before you. So it's a bit of a driving etiquette out here in the bush. But so far it's been quite a lonely drive, I should say. We only saw some beautiful nyala earlier on, but other than that, seems pretty empty. I think we're gonna head on with our plan, see if we can perhaps change our luck, but in the meantime, let's go across to Jamie, who's enjoying the company of some beautiful giants.
Some beautiful giants indeed, and our patience is slowly paying off as they make their way towards us. There's our tuskless female leading the way, although she stopped to feed off some grass. And can I just reiterate how lovely it is to hear Allie's voice again? So happy. Ellie's found themselves a little, I don't know if it's a patch of greenery or if it's some kind of water. It doesn't look like they're drinking though. It looks like they're just feeding. But something delayed their approach. But we're getting there. Now we're getting there. It's one of my favorite things to, I guess I would say, orchestrate, although one has to be very careful about how you do it. An elephant walk by is always very special when they come right past the vehicle. Now, when we orchestrate something like that, or where we try and set something like that up, we try and read where the animal is going. That doesn't mean we go and park in their direct line of walking. So it's not as though we go and try and block their paths to force them up close to us. We just go and park close to where we think they're going to walk, and then we wait and see if we've got it right or not. In this case, I've got it slightly wrong. They've changed their angle ever so slightly, and they're moving a little bit more towards the east than I expected them to. That's all right. We still get a nice close-up view. I've watched people, without talking about where I've seen it happen, I have watched people deliberately put themselves right blocking the path of the animals, whether it's been elephants or cheetah. Often with cheetah, it's to try and provoke them into jumping onto the car, because tourists love that sort of thing. Not all tourists, obviously, but tourists who don't necessarily know any better. It is unfortunate, because it means that there's a lack of perhaps respect for the fact that this is the animal's home, above and beyond the fact that it is ours as well. So as our Ellies ease a little bit closer and this little straggler tries to catch up to the rest of its family, it seems as though it's an elephant-filled day this afternoon in the Mara. Let's go and join Brent with some more.
Well, one animal that is definitely rather happy that the wildebeest aren't here on the lovely lush grasses are all the elephants, and they're one of the few animals we're finding right out in these long grass areas, and there's lots of little drainage systems, so there's a lot of water, lots of lovely grass. Oh, talking. Look at that, isn't she a beautiful big old lady? Debbie from Vancouver is wondering, how do elephants continue to evolve? It's a very good question, Debbie. You probably find it in lots of little small ways that aren't very obvious. And I mean, you get different behavior that might become evolutionary behavior if it's perpetrated over a long period of time. But I'd say it's quite difficult to see any really obvious traits of evolution happening on elephants. One must remember, it's quite unusual to be able to see them easily. Most of those things will take place over such a long period of time, and such tiny little changes over that very long period of time, that it can be quite difficult to see. Now, we're quite lucky in the Mara when we see Thompson's gazelles, and there you can see evolution sort of happening, but that's right at the end, and the tiny little changes that have been happening over thousands of years are less visible. Right now, looking very happy and very peaceful out in this long grass. Let's go across to those ones. They're just in such nice light. There's some more on the other side of the road in absolutely exquisite light. There we go. Those ones don't look like they've been having as big of a mud bath today as the others that were closer to us. Look at that. Magic. Beautiful. Mary's wondering, do the elephants migrate back and forth like the wildebeest? Yes and no. They don't really migrate. They have seasonal movements where they spend certain times in certain areas. Not really a migration per se, but rather local movements that happen seasonally. For example, when the wildebeest are here in force, they tend to move to the edge of the escarpment, into the forests, to areas where the wildebeest don't go, and they really don't like all the pandemonium caused by the massive herds of wildebeest. Oh, very pretty with that grass just moving. Well, it seems like it's an elephant-filled afternoon. We've been enjoying elephants in the Mara with Jamie and myself. Now let's go back to my good friend Tristan, who doesn't know how to dance, but at least he can find an elephant or two.
Indeed, Brenty, there's lots and lots of Ellies about, particularly down here on Juma with the marulas all fruiting. It means that we've had lots of elephants hanging about, particularly close to the camp. We've pretty much see a bull elephant almost every day at the moment when you drive around or go anywhere near the camp. They seem to be just kind of lurking, taking advantage. It's also because of how dry it is at the moment. It means that they're all kind of pushing in towards water sources. So as long as you're quite close to water, generally there's a big grey flapping ear somewhere close by, kind of taking advantage of where that water is. Now, this particular grouping it seems like quite a nice herd. It's difficult to see them because a number of them are all hidden away. We've got a cheeky little one just to our left here that's actually busy charging the car and giving us a ear out, and there we go. Hello, little one. Yes, you are very big and very strong. Don't worry. Back to mom you go. It's always funny to watch because when you kind of don't move out their way, then all of a sudden they get a little nervous and back towards where Mom is. So Mom is hidden in that thicket at the moment and is taking it very easy. There's also some that are just coming across the road at the moment. So it's all very, very relaxed and cheerful this afternoon with the eddies about. The other nice thing is that it's a bit of a cloud cover is now coming in and there's a bit of a breeze blowing. So it's hopefully going to mean that some of the animals are going to start kind of moving out of the thickets and actually getting going a little earlier today. I was a bit worried when we first kind of came down to start drive. It was searing hot and the sun was out, and I thought, well, we're going to have a quiet start to our afternoon. But actually, this wind that's blowing is quite cool, and these storm clouds that are sort of coming in look as though there might be a promise of not only rain, but a little bit of respite from the heat as well, which I'm sure the Ellies will be very thankful for. But I was saying it seems as though it's quite a nice size herd. There's a few of them still stuck down in the drainage that are coming up slowly but surely. So hopefully they'll all come out. Raj, you're wondering under what circumstances would an elephant be banished from the herd? Well, generally young males, so when they reach sexual maturity, which is anywhere between sort of 12 and 15 years old, that's when they'll get chased out by the matriarchs and being pushed out and become solitary bulls that will either join up with big old males or will live a life of solitude for quite some time. So that's when the males are pushed out. Females are generally not ostracized unless there is a situation where they're really struggling to find enough food. Then you might find a mother and her immediate family splits off, but it's not like they are pushed out. It's almost like a conscious decision from that female to try and ensure her survival and her calf's survival, to remove herself from that area and try and find a better place. So it's a situation where, I mean, the only time an elephant is really pushed from a herd is when there is a... Are you also going to be naughty? And the wind is blowing, and that's why they're all a little bit kind of eared out and noses up and just kind of getting themselves a little bit bent out of shape about what's going on. When the wind blows like this, they can smell us as humans, and it kind of just unsettles them a little bit. They can't hear as nicely, lots of scent in the air, and that makes them a little bit more wary. And that's why we're getting this kind of reaction from not only them, but also from the little one just now. It's kind of every time the wind gusts a little bit, that's when these things happen. I'm just going to try and see if I can go back a little bit, because that little calf is super cute, and I'm just trying to see if we can get another view of it. It should be behind us. The good thing is that for the Opar came back today and managed to fix Jigger and Wendy, which is good news. Right. First Lady Shah, you're wondering if these elephants walk on the street roads like they do in India. So here in South Africa, no. And the reason why is that most of our protected areas have some sort of boundary fence on the edges. So here in the Kruger National Park section, even though we're open up into Zimbabwe and Mozambique, and it's an 8.5 million acre area, there is sections that are sort of fenced off to stop elephants going into cities and towns and having any wildlife and human conflict. So here we don't see that very often at all. But if you go into places like Botswana, Zambia, Zimbabwe to a degree, there you can find elephants roaming around in the streets. So there's a town called Kasane, which is in the northern part of Botswana, up on the Chobe River, and there's no fences at all, and the elephants literally walk down the main road on this national sort of highway that goes towards the Zimbabwe border. It's really very cool. Kind of, you go off to the shops and there all of a sudden is a whole herd of elephants just walking down the street, causing a bit of a traffic jam. So it does happen in some places, but here where we are, no. So there's no cities also inside the park, which means that these elephants will only use the roads that we use to traverse this area. Right, while I sit with these eddies and see if the little baby comes out, we're going to send you, I think, back to the Mara. I didn't actually hear very nicely at all. The wind is causing a bit of havoc with my comms, and so hopefully it'll be Mara, but might be Allie, I'm not sure. Either way, I'm sure you'll enjoy.
I know the feeling, Tristan. The wind is playing havoc with our comms as well this afternoon, or at least our ability to hear our lovely director's voice in our ear. But it is me, and we are, wouldn't you know it, still with some elephants. We will actually be moving on after this, I think, and try and find you something other than elephants to look at. Not that I have any kind of a problem with an entire safari devoted to elephants, but we'll try and introduce some variety as well. Whenever I find myself looking at myself, not myself, so I don't think I have multiple personalities. Whenever I find myself watching elephants, one of my favorite things to do is to compare trunk techniques. So Tristan's waiting for a tiny baby elephant to come out. I'm sitting with some older elephants that have had the opportunity to practice this whole trunk thing, but haven't really got it entirely right yet. And I enjoy doing this not just because it's entertaining, but also because I enjoy watching and looking at the technique of the adults and then watching the youngsters imitate that technique, just like this one's doing, and then looking at their ages and comparing how the different aged calves are able to use their trunks. Now, this little one has actually pretty much got it down. It just can't quite get the same amount as the adults. Now, that deft little twist at the end of the trunk to wrap the grass around it and then gain enough traction to pull the grass out. And so this little elephant, at around about 2.5-ish, if I had to guess, of its at its age, maybe 3, this little elephant has had enough time to perfect the motion. And it makes me wonder if some baby elephants are better at it than others. So some of them learn a little bit quicker to use their trunks. I mean, some people have better motor coordination than others. And it's just fascinating to watch. Are some just more dedicated at practicing? Ludmilla, I have seen mating elephants before. I don't know that I've managed to get it on camera while I've been with the Safari Live. I have seen mating elephants, though. They're not private about it. In fact, elephants are kind of the opposite of private about it. There's a great deal of noise and advertising and general shenanigans that accompany the build-up to the act itself. But mating elephants, when elephants mate, it is a very, very brief process. There's a reason behind that. The first time a female elephant is ready to mate, she's still very young and she's actually quite small, whereas the bull that has managed to compete to mate with her could easily be 2 or 3 times her weight. Now that of course means that it puts tremendous stress on her hips and her back when he mounts her. It's one of the reasons why I think we haven't really managed to capture elephants mating. It's because it is such a quick process. So what happens beforehand is the elephant cow goes and does the estrus walk. She advertises, she makes a lot of noise, she walks around with her tail in the air and her head held upright and generally just makes a spectacle of herself. All of the others get stressed out. The males get worked up by the prospects of mating with a female, and then scuffles break out and they end up fighting with each other. And then when the female finally does allow the male close enough to her, and he'll follow behind her, he'll rest his trunk on her back, he will constantly do the elephant equivalent of a phlegm and grimace, which is to touch around her genital area or where she's urinated, and then bring the tip of his trunk into his mouth. And that's his way of transferring the scent and being able to fully interpret it. And then the brief act occurs, and that is one of the reasons why elephants have such a degree of control over their penises. I know that sounds odd, but I've seen elephants swat flies before, and the reason that they have that level of control is so that there's no, how do I put this delicately, there's no messing about when it's time to actually mate with the female. The male mounts her, and it's over in seconds. And he doesn't actually struggle to complete the act. And it's all to make sure that the female elephant isn't injured in the process. When you think that a big bull can weigh, well, as we know, record-breaking over 10 tons, you can imagine the damage that it could do, even to an elephant weighing 4 tons. I thought there was something odd about that elephant's mouth, but she's just got something in it. It's just a clump of grass. I actually thought she had injured her lower lip. And it's just a clump of ground that she doesn't want to eat. She wants the grass around it and not that clump of dirt, which is fair enough. I'm going to go and scour the tree line of the Mara River and see if we can find some baboons or maybe a surprise leopard, you never know. Let's go and see where Brent is off to this time.
Oh well, we finally found another animal apart from the elephants in the long grass, and it's two topi, one really standing high on a termite mound, and with this long grass and the amount of predators around, it's a very good place to be. You'll be able to see any potential sneaking kitty cats from up there. And you can see a harrier disappearing behind. Oh, another harrier in front. Montagues. Is it? It looks like. No. Yes. No, it's not a Montagues. What is that? Well, it's maybe a juvenile. There are a few European marsh harriers around. I can't really see. I don't think it is a European marsh harrier. Maybe a juvenile Montagues. Yes, I think juvenile Montagues from that brief view we got. Now I'm hoping that we found a topi. That means there might be a predator around. So we're coming up to an area called Mlimambili, the two hills. There's two little rocky outcrops up here that are often frequented by lion, leopard and cheetah. James sitting there says it was a Eurasian. As I said, there are quite a few Eurasians around. So thank you very much, Jamesy. Eurasian marsh harrier. As I said, they arrived. When was the first Eurasian I saw? Probably about 2-3 months ago. The first Eurasian I saw in East Africa is while we were on holiday in Uganda. And I actually saw it from a boat flying above some papyrus, almost eye level with us. Now, you can see the grass is a little bit shorter here. That's probably why the topi are here. Now, we've tried to get Tristan to dance. We know we don't need to force James to dance. He'll do that all by himself. Scott's flat out refused to dance. So let's see if Allie's a better sport than Tristan. And will Allie give us a bit of Latin dancing on this sunset safari?
I will not dance, Brent Leo Smith. I am a better dancer than you. Everybody knows that. I'm from South America. Right, we have managed to get all the way from Buffelshoek Dam, and it is looking quite full. I'm surprised at how full it is looking compared to some of the other water holes that we have around Juma, like Treehouse Dam and Twin Dams. Twin Dams in particular, I find that it's looking very... What is that at the bottom? It's a leopard! Woohoo! Down at the bottom there. You see? Yeah. Hello. Woohoo! I'm so excited. I felt like it was walking too strangely to be anything else. Hello, beautiful boy. Now, let's see. Will you please get a little bit closer? I am a bit rusty. It looks like Tingana to me, but, like I say, I haven't seen these guys for quite a long time. But I wouldn't be surprised. He was left walking into Torchwood this morning, and no wonder all the little lapwings, that noise that you're hearing, the birds blip, 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 making a noise. Now, I'm going to try and go a little bit forward, Senzo, just so that we're a little closer to the leopard. Or at least we have it more of a straight forward, because then maybe we'll get him drinking, which will be very exciting. And Brent Leo Smith, this is why I don't dance. I find leopards while you dance. He's never going to forgive me. Alrighty, that's gonna sting. Alright, perfect. Now he's drinking, and he's just on the other side of the dam. Do you think it's good old friend Tingana? Hello, so unexpected to see a leopard all the way up here. Wonderful. So I think we've been quite lucky this afternoon because like we were saying earlier, it's been incredibly hot, very, very hot. But in the last little while, the cloud cover is starting to come in and it seems like we are headed for rain for the next few days. Beautiful. Tanya, you are commenting that if this is indeed Tingana, he's looking terribly skinny. Sorry, yes, he is looking a little bit skinny, at least from all the way here, but he's still looking quite powerful as he does. I just wish that maybe he would start coming back onto our side. But I'm just gonna let him drink in peace for a little while because we have probably the best view from this side of where we are, and then we'll carry on following. Because also in this area where we are, we've passed a herd of impala just on the other side, which cannot really see Tingana from where they're lying. So I think he's being very clever. Now there's his very big dewlap, very prominent as usual, as Tingana would have it, because he's a dominant territorial male leopard. And it's very exciting to actually see him. So we've seen Hosanna this morning and Tingana this afternoon. Very exciting times. Now, I'm just gonna wait for him to finish drinking, and then I think we'll be able to assess a little bit better what his body condition is. I did hear a while ago that he was looking even skinnier and he wasn't looking all that great, and some people actually feared that he might pass, but it seems like not really the case. Well, he's still rocking, and if there's anything that I've learned from watching these creatures is that you can never write them off. They always have a wonderful comeback. So I'm gonna go around just to get a little bit closer to him in case he's actually going on. And we'll be able to have I'll be a very happy person. Tom, you're wondering if he's having a hard time because Hukumuri is around. Well, I don't think that Hukumuri, I can probably go down there. I don't think the fact that Hukumuri is here is going to help him in any way, but I could be mistaken, but I think that he was already not looking in a great condition even before Hukumuri came around. Sorry, I just need to get into gear. So I think that might be just non-related, but convenient for Hukumuri in a sense. Right, sorry, it's going to be a bit of a bumpy ride until we get there. All right, we're gonna be right in front of him in about 10 seconds. So let's just see what goes on here, because I'm afraid he's going to stop drinking soon. Shin, were you thirsty? There we go. Hello. Nice. Actually lasted quite a long time drinking. How is that for a beautiful boy? So good to see you. And he still looks quite fearsome, doesn't he? That is stunning. You are looking a bit on the skinny side, I would say. It seems there's a lot of loose skin just hanging there around his neck. But nonetheless, I'm gonna wait for him to actually stand up, and then maybe we'll be able to get a better idea around his shoulders and around his stomach and see how he actually looks like. I think you are a little bit skinny. But I know there are plenty of impala around here, and the fact that you have been walking so much probably means that you've got a lot of energy, which is good. Like I said this morning, he was left walking into Torchwood, and he's probably been walking the rest of the day, and that's why he's so thirsty. Look at that beautiful tongue. You are stunning. Very happy that you're still around. Now, I'm surprised that he came all the way here to drink. Because it's the rainy season, there are a lot of little puddles of water all around the blocks and in between the roads. So I wonder just how long he's actually been walking, or perhaps he just prefers the taste of this water. It will be an interesting study to do if animals actually have a preference for a particular taste of water. But, pardon me, out of all the areas that are or all the water puddles and dams that are in this area, this is probably one of the ones that looks the cleanest. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's actually chosen this one on purpose because he doesn't really want to drink some of the other ones that might be a little bit too muddy. We know that elephants have been around also making everything a little bit worse. James, you're saying that you love having or seeing cats drink water. It is pretty incredible, isn't it? And there have been so many studies as to how exactly it is that cats drink water. Because I used to think that with the back part of their tongue curled up, that's where they put the water and then they take it back up. But actually what they do is, because they hit the water very quickly, they create a certain tension between the water surface and their tongue, and as they separate their tongue from the water, that's actually when they put the water in their mouth. So it's perhaps a reason why they have to drink so much, because only a few drops go in at a time. And there are some incredible shots that they've done to just try and figure out how they actually drink, as it's a very unique thing to cats, because they drink. I don't know, I think it would be easier for them if they could just stick their noses in the, well, not their noses, but their muzzle in the water, and then just start absorbing the water in. Shame. You are looking a bit skinny. But hopefully you'll be on the mend. Still have a territory and cubs to defend, old boy. Although you're not that old, you're still strong. Sending you all the positive thoughts. And look at the size of those paws. Here, we can tell hopefully where Tamba gets them from. Very big. Especially now in that muddy substrate. It's not too bothered by all the little birds around. And I can hear squirrels in the distance going crazy. And who wouldn't be scared of those, of the strength of those feet? Let's see how you walk. Tom, you're asking, you are looking skinny now. Tom, you're wondering if it could be that he's ill. It could be. I know that there was a time a few weeks ago where everybody feared that he might actually be dead, because he wasn't seen for quite a while, and he was seen under the same branch of the tree or under the same tree for a few days, and everybody was a little bit scared that he might not be well. I think it is possible that he is recovering, because we've seen him here, and I do believe that he's walked quite a distance today, and I don't think he would be capable of walking that distance if he was feeling that sick. He would probably just stick around that area. He is looking a little bit as a shadow of himself. Like I said, you see that there's a lot of loose skin hanging in there, whereas before he used to fill it all up, and it was almost like, you know, the guides around here tend to say that he looks like a sausage. So he's not quite looking like a sausage yet, but I am hoping that he'll be on the mend. Definitely is in need of a good meal. Very likely he's also been trying to avoid Hukumuri, because if Hukumuri is a healthy younger boy, then Tingana, being a little bit of an older, although seasoned boy, and this is his territory and he knows it quite well, then he's got to also be at his forefront of energy just to be able to fend off the attack or the intrusion of any other male leopard, and then of course to defend his cubs. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's actually been avoiding Hukumuri just until the time where he gets strong enough, and then he'll come claiming his territory once more. However, he's got to recover first. Shame, you are looking skinny. Maybe he'll have a bit of a bite of a lapwing somewhere. Now, I think I'm going to go around this particular area, and hopefully we'll be able to get a view from the other side. Wendy, you're wondering if he would be able to successfully defend his territory. Well, I don't think at the moment, and looking the way he is a very powerful boy, and he's got almost the home advantage, because this is his area where he's been roaming around and commanding for quite a while now. So I think he will have that on his side. However, I don't think he is as strong as he should be to successfully fight off any other intruding males like the Hukumuri male, which is a new male into the area. But I have hope that he'll recover. It is funny how often we think that these animals are not going to do well, and then all of a sudden they seem to be just fine and recover after a very good meal. Whoop. This is getting a little bit complicated, so as I try to reposition and gain another view, let's head over to Jamie, who I believe is with some pretty warthogs.
Beyond the fact that they are very pretty, I've got a riddle that has popped up here. Unfortunately, they've all popped back down into the long grass, making it very hard to explain the riddle to you. That is a male warthog over there, a big male warthog. And I saw another big male warthog, and then I saw a third warthog, and I assumed that that was the mother, the third warthog. But as it turned out, the third warthog was also male. So now we've got 3 adult male warthog and 4 piglets. I cannot work this one out. My best answer, there's no 4th warthog. There's no 4th adult warthog, therefore the mother is not here. And you don't see little piglets of this age on their own or this far away from their mothers. I can only assume that the mother something's happened to her. Perhaps she's been caught by a lion, perhaps by another predator, and she is no longer here. But the little piglets are old enough now to feed on solid food, and while I don't think that they are 6 months old, which is around about when baby warthogs are weaned, I think that they're old enough now to probably survive without their mother's milk. And I wonder if the fact that they are as young as they are, and they really are very young, and 4 months old, maybe even a bit less, I can't even see any sign of tusks yet. I can only imagine that their youth means that they feel attracted to others of the same species, and they just want to spend some time with the males just so that they feel safer. A natural, not quite herding instinct when it comes to warthogs. But shame, we've got 4 little piggies, and they don't know where their mommy is. That's really quite sad. Little orphans, I think. Now, there's no situation where the male warthogs would adopt them or look after them in any way, but they are tolerating them because it's not breeding season. Unless their mother's in a burrow, but I just don't see it. I don't think it's likely. Oh, yeah, I've got a bit of a fright there. That's so weird. Tom, no, warthogs don't have a structure like jackal, for example, where they mate for life and the male participates in the raising of the young. It's okay. Go into your burrow then if you feel safer with your little wet snout. Oh! Belly flop! No, they don't. They don't mate for life, and the males don't play any kind of a role in raising the offspring. They might occasionally hang around near the females, but they don't play, they're not father figures. Karen says that perhaps the piggy mummy went to the market, and perhaps she's going to cry wee 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 all the way home, Karen. Some big pig. Yo. It's a serious set of tusks on that pig, especially his bottom tushes. Talking about telling the difference between male and female warthog, of course they have the 4 warts instead of the 2, which was how I immediately identified that it was a group of males. But I double-checked myself because we have in the past seen a female warthog with 4 warts. They're not warts, they are hard pieces of sort of connective tissue. But when in doubt, if you can't look at the face, there are some relatively prominent male parts on a male warthog that will help to confirm, and I can promise you that all 3 adults had them. So I don't know, I can only assume shame. I can only assume that those poor piglets are orphans. Or warphans. A warphan is a warthog orphan. Michelle, it's very unusual for warthogs to be poached for their tusks. They are essentially made of the same thing as elephants. Tusk, of course, a tusk is modified teeth, and warthog have them, elephant have them. It's not as favored as elephant tusks are. Of course, it becomes ivory after it has been worked. But there are certain situations where people do catch them and kill them, more for bushmeat than for anything else. They also become the victims of snares in situations where snares have been put out, and occasionally to pass off the tusk as an elephant tusk. Is there another warthog there? Is that Mum? That warthog at the back, sorry. Can we zoom in a little bit there? Thank you. That might be Mum. She is very far away from her little piglets. The mystery deepens. Alright, right, well, we puzzle out the mystery of the little piglets who didn't have a mum around them. Maybe she did go to market. Maybe that's where the Warthog market is. Let's return to Allie and Juma and see where Tingana is. He's been such a lovely surprise this afternoon.
Yo, what a sighting, this one. We have been really truly blessed with this sighting. He just decided to go on one of the edges of the dam wall, and that's exactly where he's lying. And he's just been, I think more than anything, enjoying the breeze, because it's a very cool spot where he's chosen, and he's just looking around and seeing everything and doesn't seem to be too bothered. But what a stunning view of this cat. This is absolutely gorgeous. When he went and lied there, I think Senzo and I were like, yes, amazing. Very beautiful. Now all you have to do is catch yourself an impala and then you'll be fine. Or maybe two impala rather than just one. So you see, he's still very much alert of everything that's going around here. You see the ears are constantly twitching and listening and picking up noises from every direction. I actually thought that he was going to go in the direction where he's facing now, where it's just opposite of where we are, as there was a herd of impala that was drinking a little bit earlier on. So I wouldn't be surprised if he is actually on the hunt and then he'll start approaching them. And not too far from here, I mean, at least not for the normal distances that Tingana seems to like to walk. There we also saw an injured impala, so it could be that there would be different things in his favor. So let's see, I'm not too sure, I'm just putting everything out there. But it is amazing what happens sometimes throughout the night. And he's looking quite intent. I'm sure he can probably see them. I cannot see them from where we are because we are just obviously below him. But I think he's picked up the sight of those impala that we were looking at earlier. So it's a bachelor herd of impala, so a group of young males, and they've started almost, and we saw them this morning when we were heading back to camp. It almost seems like they've started rutting and fighting, and things are getting a little bit more aggressive than what they should be at this time of the year, which would be good for him, as it would give them an advantage. If the boys are distracting, fighting or sparring or just doing something else, they might not pay that much attention to the potential danger that's looking around very close to them. That is a stunning visual. You are... I'm so happy to see Tingana. I wanted to see Hosanna and Tingana. Joel, you're wondering how long can leopards live for? Well, in captivity they can go for quite a long time, but normally in the wild, if they reach 20 years of age, then it's quite a long time. I would say male leopards, because there's a little bit more fighting involved in their lives and protecting territories and patrolling, there's probably a good average, I would say about 15, 16 perhaps. So somewhere around there, but they are known to go well beyond that. In females, we actually had a female in this area, if I'm not mistaken, her name was Safari, and she was recorded to live up to 19 years of age, which is quite a lot. Beautiful. I think our boy has gone a little bit sleepy, so let's go across to Tristan, who is apparently looking at the giants from above.
We are indeed. So we're sitting enjoying the view of a beautiful Ellie bull as he meanders between marulas, should I say. He's not just going to one, he's going around and kind of picking off as he goes. And he is such a relaxed individual, because he's been kind of allowing us to follow him for a little bit, and stops and he feeds, and it's been so wonderful watching, because from our ground perspective, it looks very different. It doesn't look like we can actually see him at all. And with the drone, it's kind of quite easy. We can actually follow him quite quickly, and we can have a situation where, there you go, you can see how difficult it is for us where we're sitting to see him, but from the aerial feed is much easier. And the other interesting thing that was happening with the drone is we were watching a fork-tailed drongo following him around and hawking insects from behind him. So as he would walk, this little drongo would come down and just grab insects from his back feet. Really is very cool to see. So hopefully he'll come out a little bit more, and there we go, he's going to slowly start coming out, I think. Drongo is still somewhere there. If you look out every now and then, you just see this little black dot. He walks around, and every now and then you'll see he kind of walks to a tree, and then he stops and he'll grab a trunk full. There we go. So a trunk full of food, and in it goes. Now what you can also see is that his sort of back is darker in coloration halfway, and his trunk as well. and that's because he's actually been in the water. So he was down at Treehouse Dam, that's where we first found him, and he was having a good little bath, and he sprayed the backs of his ears and the sides of his body to try and cool himself down more than anything else. I don't think he actually drank too much. I think it was more just a cooling situation. But how cool is that? It's such a unique way to look at it, and he's a really nice, relaxed individual. You can see he's going underneath the tree again now, which is very cool. So, Jared, yes, the Juma elephants do eat grass. In fact, at this time of the year, in the summer months, when it's more our rainfall months, we'll find that the elephants will eat probably about 60% of their daily intake will be mostly grasses. The problem that we've had over the last 2 to 3 years is that we've had very poor rainfall in the summer, which means that our grasses are not very good. You can see from this aerial perspective how there's very little grass covering. Actually, it looks like a lot when you're down on the ground, but from the aerial point of view, you can see the grass is very patchy, and that means it's been tough for this elephant to actually be able to find a lot of grassy food. And so they've turned their attention more to barks and roots and leaves over this period. But generally, about 60% of their diet in the summer months is more grass-based, and then as they go into the winter, so that changes, and they'll have less and less grass. But how cool a visual is that for an elephant? It's absolutely amazing. He is such a relaxed individual as well. You can see he's not fazed by the drone kind of following him as well, which is very, very cool. And coming up to a big road there, so I think that's Treehouse West that they're about to cross, or he's about to cross. Julie, you're wondering if a rogue elephant is a vicious elephant? Well, no, not necessarily. I mean, rogue elephants, or a lone male bull elephant like this, is just a young male that's been evicted from his herd, and then he becomes a solitary individual. Male elephants very seldom spend a lot of time with females. It's only if they're in heat do they then go there and to try and mate. And the other reason they would follow or be in a group together would be if there was young bulls sort of accompanying one another just after they've been removed from a herd structure. So a lone elephant is not necessarily a dangerous elephant. When elephants become rogue, I suppose, if they get out of game reserves and they become stressed, then yes, any animal stressed can be dangerous. But elephants by nature are not aggressive animals. It's only if they feel like they're being threatened, or if there's a reason for them to be aggressive, which is normally because people have persecuted them over a long period of time, that makes them a little bit more aggressive in certain parts of the world. Luckily, here in South Africa, our elephants are pretty relaxed and pretty chilled. Hassan, you're wondering if it's true that elephants mourn their dead? Well, I mean, yes, they are intrigued by dead relatives or dead elephants that they come across. So if they come past and they see bones and various other things, then they'll go and they'll sniff it, and sometimes they even pick it up and they put it in their mouth, and they spend a lot of time there and they go very quiet. So whether or not it's mourning is difficult to measure, but there is a period when they come across bones that they will kind of look and they'll see, and they'll take some time to actually work out what's going on. Now, I do apologize that there's a bit of breakup on the drone itself. Sometimes we lose a little bit of picture quality, which is to be expected given that we are live in Africa. Right, so but back to what I was saying about the elephants and in terms of their bone or relatives and mourning. So elephants are very intelligent animals. They've got a very big brain, and they are socially very attached, particularly the herds. And so if a calf dies or a member of the herd dies, yes, there is going to be some emotional trauma there, and you'll definitely find that the elephants will go through some stress. Whether that's mourning is very difficult to say, but they do go through some period where they kind of watch what's going on, and they'll stay there, and they'll be around that dead animal, and there's a lot of vocalizing and kind of touching and those kind of things that happen. So it does sort of look like they're mourning. Whether or not they're actually mourning is difficult to say. Now, I can hear something breathing deeply behind me, and actually what I can see is a hippo. So it's just gone underwater there. Scuba Steve, I wonder if this is Scuba Steve. Maybe Scuba Steve is back at Treehouse. It's been a while since we've had Scuba Steve around. He's normally hangs out at Buffelshoek Dam and is quite shy, but this fella today is making a lot of noise and a lot of ripples, and so I wonder if it's because it's a little shallow, so every time he moves there's a ripple that's being made. There you go, you can see just kind of the water moving underneath the surface there. Right, well, we're going to try and carry on, see what else we can find, and while we do that, let's send you back across to the ever regal Tingana.
it seems like somebody's tired and has decided to go for a nap, and it's a little bit heartbreaking once he goes down and you can see all the bones protruding. So I think we're all hoping for Tingana to get better. Hopefully he'll get lucky tonight or later on today. Normally the windy conditions are very good for predators as they start moving around, as the wind tends to swirl quite a bit and it'll camouflage their smell, their scent, and they'll be able to perhaps approach animals a little bit closer. Shame boy. He is a little bit tired, and like I said, from the reports we received this morning, I think that he's been walking quite a distance, so probably a nice, well-earned rest. And he's in an area where that he's chosen quite well. First of all, there's a nice breeze coming through, so he'll be able to keep himself cool, but also there are very little things that will actually be able to approach him from either side without him knowing that they're coming. So I think he's actually been quite strategic as to why he's chosen this particular spot. Obviously there's water in front of him and very little can get to him, and from behind also not too many things that will be able to approach without him knowing. So there are a few also escape routes should another male leopard or elephants or even lions come into this particular area. So you see he can very easily go down on either side of the bridge wall, and then he'll be able to move off. Elaine, you're wondering if Osana would bring a kill for Tingana, Tingana being his dad, for him if he's too sick to hunt or to fend for himself. No, leopards have a different way of life to what we do. What could happen though is that Tingana would stumble on Hosana's kill and probably try to chase him off the kill so that he could eat part of it, if not whatever it is that is left. However, Hosana would not actively seek Tingana and try to bring him food. Social relationships in the leopard world become very loose as the leopards become older, particularly in animals of the same gender. So even if Tingana is Hosana's father, eventually Hosana is going to become competition for Tingana in terms of territory, in terms of females to mate with. So things are not going to be that pretty for the both of them, and all of this sociability that we've seen with them in the last few months, where Tingana has actually been quite tolerant of Hosana and Tamba, might end abruptly. Because, well, now they're competitors and they're no longer his offspring to protect. They're adult leopards and they probably just want to have exactly or do the same as their father. So Tingana is a little bit far away from where Hosana has stashed the kill, so it's going to be still quite a long walk for him to get there. I think he has a better chance with the impala that we're around this area. Perhaps even he will try to get some of the chicks that are for the different bird species that are around here. That might also be good for him. And just because he doesn't seem that full, it doesn't mean that he hasn't been eating. He could have been eating small things. They could be eating smaller creatures. They could be eating squirrels, mongoose, snakes, pretty much anything that's around. I think just maybe not enough of them to make him have a full belly, because they do survive eating a lot of the smaller things. Q-Tip, you were wondering how leopards are able to spray back to urine backwards, if I didn't get that question wrong, when they go marking their territory. Well, it's just because of the position of their organs and their genitals, and when they are urinating, it comes at a different, how can I say it, a different force, a different pressure than when they're trying to scent mark. When they're scent marking, it's almost like a spray bottle type of effect, where they just want to put a few drops here on a tree and then they carry on and they do the next one, and they don't want to pretty much put it all in one tree if they've got a patrol to do, just because they want to try and mark as many trees and as many corners as possible, just so that everybody in that particular area know that this particular territory has been taken. And I think it was quite interesting that the Hukumuri male was actually calling or sowing this morning, and that could be part of the reason why Tingana's now come back to Bufosuk Dam. Maybe he is feeling a little bit better and he's come to explore what's going on. Perhaps he did hear him and he's, taking it easy to get there because he still needs to recover, but he also means business. This is his home range, this is his territory, this is where he's going to stick around unless a battle throws him away. And I don't think he's quite given up on that yet. Oh, that's a stunning view. Susan, you're wondering if Tingana could have feline TB. No idea. Could be. I think it's a condition that they carry. They don't necessarily die from it, if I'm not mistaken. it could happen, however, it would be very hard to tell, and we wouldn't be able to know. I do know that there was a leopard in the northern Sabi Sand that died a few months ago. Her name is Salaesh, and they did a post-mortem exam on that, and they did find that she had lung lesions, which is a very common trait for animals who do have TB. I wouldn't be surprised if he's a carrier, and maybe because he's lost condition quickly, maybe it's affecting him a little bit more. I'm not too sure. It could be a possibility, but there's virtually no way for me to tell right now if he does or if he doesn't. These are unfortunately the type of studies that we or the type of research that we only have access to on a post-mortem basis, and I really hope we won't be doing any of that anytime soon with Tingana. Sounds like you're alert again. What are you looking at? There were some elephants also trumpeting in the distance a little while ago. So I wonder if he's perhaps looking at that. You have the vantage point. I do feel like a little dwarf as we're looking up into the dam and everything else. So you can tell it's interesting how the animals go onto higher ground to be able to look around. Willow, you're 3 years old and you're wondering if I can feed him. Well, I would really like to, because I see that I don't like to see animals very skinny, but unfortunately we are not allowed to. So he's a big boy and he's an adult and he's got to do it by himself. It's the rules of the game. If you're an animal in Africa, or at least in this reserve, you have to do it yourself. So all of us humans, the only thing that we are allowed to do is come and see them and see how pretty they are, and they enjoy their company, but we cannot pet him and we cannot go off to see them because they're not really used to us. And although he looks like a very big pussycat, I don't think he would be too happy with me. And even if Tingana looking as skinny as it is, I would not get anywhere near him because I don't think he would be very happy to see me, and I could still be a very good meal for him, so I don't really want to get eaten by a leopard. So hopefully he won't. We'll stay right here in the car and we won't feed him. We'll just stay here and just tell him he's pretty, and hopefully that'll be enough to make him recover. Very interesting. It is. You can see the clouds and the gloomy afternoon ahead of us, but the temperature is so much better. Yesterday was a very hot day, and I think we probably wouldn't have gotten lucky with him had the weather not turned into this particular temperature and set of conditions. Where are you looking? Seems like he's still looking in the distance. We're going to stick around with him, see what he decides to do and where he goes. But while I do that, let's go over to Brent and find out if he's also seen a Mara leopard this afternoon.
Oh, Allie, when you found as many leopards as I have, you don't get really excited about one, you know. No, I haven't found a Mara leopard this afternoon. I'm actually skedaddling because we ended up going quite far down to the south. So I'm skedaddling back to get up the hill before the end of park times. And you never know what's going to happen next on a live safari. We might see a Mara leopard yet. Oh dear, here comes the dust. Hi, Alana, who's 14 years old. Alana would like to know what tree is the most important to the Mara ecosystem. Well, Alana, it all depends on what part of the Mara you are. So, if we go all the way to the east on the other side of the river, up towards the Ngurumans, the mountains in that area, you've got a lot of acacias, in particular whistling thorn. So that sort of biome, the acacias and the coniferas are very important. You get them sort of above Salas at the top end of the Sand River. In this section of the Mara, your Walbergias, your Diospyruses that are all in these riverine forests. If you go up and up onto the escarpment, your wild olives, and there's a lot of actual species up there. But in the grassy areas of the Mara, the most important tree is almost certainly the balanites trees, or the torchwood trees, and we've got a few of them out there. There's a torchwood tree there, as well as the shepherd's tree. Now, in those big grassy areas, those are the only real bits of shade. There are some small bushes and stuff like that, but if we're talking trees, there's a balanites tree, and you can see how the balanites trees are dotted throughout. So not only do they provide shade, shelter and food to a lot of animals here in the Mara, them and the shepherd's tree in particular. So it all depends on what area you're in, and if you get into sort of rocky outcrops around the Mara River and also towards Salas and that, oh, no, I've gone absolutely blank on the name. Feverberry, which is croton, are very important. If you think about the areas where we are spend a lot of time with cheetah around Talek, the tops of the crests that have those croton thickets, they're very important areas for the big cats to lie up. They're also for black rhino, dik all utilize those areas quite extensively. So it all just depends on where you are in the Mara. Now, of course, that also depends a lot on the rainfall. So there's acacia belts and whistling thorns towards the Ngurumans. Those are all, it's a much more arid area. You start seeing animals that you don't get in this part of the Mara. There are greater kudu there. There's steenbok, striped hyena. So you've got different species as well. Because the rainfall is not as high and it's quite rocky, it's quite arid there compared to this area, which gets, I'd probably say that the triangle gets a lot more rain even than Talek and Kikarok and those areas. So again, rainfall plays a part. Soil types play a part, but as I say, there's lots of very important tree species. You could go as far as to say that probably all indigenous tree species are very important, and if you had to remove one, it would be a very big problem for something. So there might not be food for black rhino, there might be an insect species that specifically hosts on the or feeds off or hosts on the tree. So there's a lot of different variables, but yes, I'd say probably the most common one that you can just see very actively is the balanites and the shepherd's tree. And the shepherd's tree is named for the fact that in quite a lot of areas where there's a big open grassland or it's quite arid, it's the only tree that provides shade. So the shepherds, looking after their cows and goats and whatnot, tend to have a little nap under the shepherd's tree while the animals graze around them. Oof. This wind is not slowing down today. Now, while we continue scrambling towards the road up the mountain, let's go all the way back to South Africa, to Allie and Tingana.
Beautiful. I think he's now decided to look or gaze upon the distance where there is a water buck. I was thinking that maybe he was still looking at all of the impala that were around, but the impala are still in a bit of a cove area around the dam, one of the bends of the dam. So I think he's now looking, I don't know if it'll be a tricky one to spot, because I think the water buck has just moved behind a tree and now I cannot even see it. But definitely looking at that, a water buck out there in the distance, in between those two trees, you can almost, there we go, you can see the rump. So I think that's what he's been eyeing all this time. It's a female water buck and I've only seen one, which is not that usual. There's probably another one around, but definitely cannot see it from this particular angle. And I think that's probably what he's after, what he's looking for. Oh, this is falling down. So maybe he's gauging his options and thinking about how he's going to approach that particular area. But food is all the way over there, so if he is hungry, he's going to have to eventually start walking all the way over there and making his way. He is a clever cat, so I'm sure he'll be able to choose his options carefully. Sorry, Faith, can you just repeat the question if you don't mind? I didn't get the last part of it. Okay. Heidi, you're wondering if another leopard can sense the demise of a male that's already in that area, and that's why perhaps they'll start making their approach. I think so, because there's a lot of olfactory communication that gets put around, and a lot of hormones or pheromones that are floating all around the air. So, for example, in the time that Tingana has been sick, he wouldn't have been calling, which is also a way of advertising his territory, and he wouldn't have been marking. Both play a very crucial role in just letting all of the other ones around, and as soon as that, for a continued space of time, maybe a few days, probably more than a few days, a few weeks at a time, he will know. Another male will know that. Sorry, I got distracted trying to figure out what he was looking at, and he's definitely looking at the buffalo. Now, that's a bit too far. I know you're hungry, and that will make you full, but I don't think that's probably enough for you. But yes, I think the Hukumuri male, or any other male for that matter, we could also have eventually Juma pushing into this territory. As soon as Tingana doesn't mark his territory or advertise his presence here for quite a while, a lot of other leopards start picking up the fact, probably not that he's been dead or missing, but the fact that there isn't an active force in that particular area that's been feeding off, that's been marking, that's been protecting his territory, so that will give them a chance to actually go in there. This is so cool. We've got all of the buffalo coming after the buffalo. I'm getting greedy now. Right, let me see if I can maybe go an inch forward, although there are a few that are coming down on the left and on the right hand side, so I think those ones will be fine. And you see they're very cautious of approaching the water. The wind makes everyone quite wary, especially the prey species, even something as tough and as big as a buffalo. So they approach the water, they're a little bit careful, but now they're all coming down to the water. Seems like quite a big herd, and I think the Nkuhumas are this morning. They've been after this buffalo herd. They've been following them around. Seems like Buffelshoek Dam wasn't the place for us to come this afternoon. How lovely! Now we've got two out of the famous big five in this area. We've got the leopard viewing all of the buffalo. Ooh, and there's quite a few more coming down. Let me just try and go a little bit forward. Maybe we'll be able to get a better view of just how many there are. Green, you're wondering if Tingana's still quick and if the buffalo will charge him. Whew, this is a massive herd of buffalo. Look at this. So many of them. I think I'm not too sure if maybe we should go on to the other side. Yes, sorry, Green, just to go back to your question, Tingana is still very quick and the buffalo are still on the other side. So should some of the buffaloes start coming from that area where we first saw him, just across the bend, just all the way around there, then very likely he would just get up. And you see, he's actually now taking a posture. He's not as perked up as he was before. I think he's now a little bit back down, probably because he doesn't want to give up his spot, but he doesn't want all this buffalo to view him. This is amazing. So many buffalo coming down for a drink. I haven't seen a herd of buffalo this big in quite a long time, so this is actually a very welcome sight. All of them drinking. Now I can hear also there are some grunts around that accompany buffaloes, because although they are not as aggressive as certain other animals, they make lots of noise. Ravinda, you're wondering if they can sense that the leopard is here. Well, just judging by the direction in which the wind is blowing, I think they could pick up his scent, just because the wind is blowing from Tingana towards the buffalo. However, I think they would be quite... You see, some of them are even putting their head up close to sniffing the air, but I think they would be able to pick up the fact that it's not necessarily a lion, which would be, their main... the main species that they should worry about, because normally, I say this, but now Hosanna is on a baby buffalo kill, but normally male leopards or leopards in general will stay away from catching buffalo unless it's a very small buffalo or an injured buffalo. But you see a lot of them are putting up their noses. I'm sure they can pick up different things, different scents out in the air, but I wonder how long they've been walking for. Pretty sure they've all come all the way from Torchwood. This is wonderful. So many of them drinking water from and appeared pretty much from nowhere. I didn't even hear them coming. And there are still quite a few at the back, so I'd say maybe could be about a herd of 100, 150. So interesting. So many of them coming at the back, and it's a mix of females, males, but I do not see any youngsters, which is interesting. No, there's one tiny youngster to the left. Crazy. So interesting. Right, because this is such a cool sighting, I think we're gonna do a bit of a Facebook unscheduled broadcast, or just unscheduled broadcast, doesn't have to be Facebook, so I'm gonna stay quiet for a little while the girls in FC set everything up. Welcome everyone to this incredible sighting that we've got going on all the way from Kruger, or the Greater Kruger National Park in South Africa. My name is Allie, and on camera with me today is Senzo, and we are very happy to be all the way here as we are viewing two of the most dangerous animals that we get in this particular area. We've got a very big herd of buffalo that just arrived onto the scene. We actually didn't even hear them coming, and they've been flooding this particular dam just for a drink. And just as I thought there were about 100, maybe 150 of them, they haven't stopped coming and they haven't stopped drinking. And up here to the left, we've got a territorial male leopard that's just been looking at the buffalo. Now, if you were wondering, he was here way earlier than the buffalo, and he was enjoying, I think, just the breeze and everything else that was happening while the buffalo have just arrived. And although I'm pretty sure the buffalo can smell him because the wind is blowing from the leopard towards the buffalo, I think the buffalo are just way too thirsty. I don't think there are too many dams, too many areas where they can actually drink as much water as they need to, especially to sustain such a big herd as this one. Now, if you've got any comments or questions, feel free to post them on the comment section on the platform that you're viewing. This is live and interactive, and we do love to hear from everyone else that's watching. Juliet, you're saying hello from London. This weather actually does a little bit like the London weather that I remember. A little bit overcast, but you can see the animals have been loving it. It's been super hot, so they're enjoying this. Beautiful. Flukan, you're wondering if the crocodiles will attack the buffalo in the water. Well, they could, other than the fact that I think there are no crocodiles in this particular dam at this particular time. But yes, they could. Perhaps not go for such a big buffalo. We don't have massive amounts of them as we do perhaps in Kenya. But they would definitely try their luck with a little one. That they could get. Seems like now it's done drinking time. Oh, I don't even know where that accent came from. And they're all now just cooling down. Definitely been a very hot day for all the animals around, as they're now starting to invade the dam and just going in. Morale, you're wondering if a leopard could get a calf from amongst the herd. Well, have to be very careful. So perhaps a calf that's far away with its mother, away from the main herd, because buffalo do tend to protect each other, and they tend to mob predators and just push them away. So that little young calf that we're looking there, it could be at risk of falling as a prey for one of the leopards. Actually, I say this, but we've actually this morning and yesterday afternoon we saw a younger male leopard with a tiny little buffalo off the tree that it had managed to kill. So we can only speculate as how he got it, because buffalo can be very protective, and it's one of the reasons why they live in such big herds. But yes, a little buffalo like that could definitely be a meal for this leopard, although he is sleeping all the way up there, so I don't think he's too interested in buffalo meat. He is also, we think he's recovering from an injury, or he is not looking at his best. So there is some speculation as how he's faring. I think that he's probably on the mend, but that is also a bit of my wishful thinking. Jennifer, you're wondering if I'm not afraid of being so close to the leopard in an open vehicle. No, not at all. He hasn't shown any signs to care whatsoever at the fact that we are in this particular area. And where we work in the Greater Kruger National Park, all of the animals, the buffalo and the leopards, they've been viewing people on this type of card for over 50 years. So they're just so used to seeing us and coming around and making a noise and talking, and they're leaving. And we try not to have any impact whatsoever in what they do. We wouldn't go and pet them or feed them or get involved or anything else. Now there's a buffalo right at the bottom. If you go a little bit to the left, I do not want to move, but there we go. Anna, you're wondering if a leopard would ever drag a kill up the tree to kill it there. Normally the leopards will kill their prey on the ground, and they put it up on the trees just to prevent any other scavenger from getting it. Although I would suppose that perhaps with a little creature, a smaller antelope, they might just knock it out and then try. Now, this is quite interesting. We have the buffalo right down here at the bottom, and I think this female has picked up on the fact that there's a leopard here. She is being very curious, and she keeps putting her head up every now and again. So we're just gonna see very carefully how this is going to play out, and I am not going to move, as we do not want to, as I said, we do not want to interfere in any possible interaction that might happen with these two species. But you can see the leopard not really bothered. He knows all the buffalo are here, but I think he's maybe hoping that if he ignores them for long enough, they'll go. She definitely knows there's something there. And also, you see, he hasn't raised his head. He knows that his best chance of being undetected, or going undetected, is not to put himself up there and give his position away. Well done, boy. You see, he's been around for a while, so he knows a few tricks himself. Interesting. And now the buffaloes have gone back onto the other side. There's always an inquisitive one that comes around and just has a look and see what else is going on. And I cannot see her anymore. I think she's just gone all the way around. But I do think that eventually, if the buffalo do carry on coming onto this side, that the leopard is going to move off and potentially move away. He is not looking in the best condition, but oh my goodness, it seems like we had even buffalo mating. Yeah, but no, he's just in front of us, but I think they've stopped now and was very quick. Everything's happening at this dam today. How interesting. And you see, there are more and more buffaloes still coming. Incredible how all of them were hiding just at the back, and now we're all looking at them. Wow. Right, we've reached the end of this little broadcast, but if you would like to carry on watching and see how the action unfolds, perhaps in between all of this buffalo and the leopard, you can just Google us and just type Safari Live, and you'll be able to find us, and you'll be able to carry on watching and see how this interaction unfolds. Hello everyone, now my censorship is finished, now I can speak again. Now you see, now the buffalo are very relaxed at the bottom, but we've got the female again just here where she was earlier on, and she keeps going back up and then going back down and coming back up and going back down. So she definitely knows that there's something going on. We're going to stay around here and see how this plays out, and we'll keep you guys posted. But in the meantime, let's go to Jamie, who's got one of my favorite animals out in the bush.
I can easily understand why zebra are Allie's favorite animal. They certainly are very beautiful to look at. It's that time of evening in the Mara where our herds of zebra start to wind their way up to the top of the Olololo escarpment. I think they're doing it purely because they feel a little bit safer up there. There's more human activity. They've learned that we're not a threat to them, and they know that there are some nice green grassy fields, places where the grass has been cut deliberately to keep it short. Football fields, for example, or soccer fields would be a nice example of what I'm talking about. And predators are less likely to head up the mountain. As we know, that's not always the case, but I guess that's what's behind the drive of the zebras up the hill every night. I don't really know. That's just what I've always assumed is the case. There must be a reason for it, because every night they go up the mountain and every morning they come back down again. I wonder why. Be fascinating to actually be able to ask them. Will, as we sit and watch our plains zebra, our grill grevy, Will is wondering about the Grevy's zebra and where it lives and where it lives. But let me just give a little bit of background about the Grevy's zebra. The Grevy's zebra is the most endangered species of zebra, and it lives in very isolated areas, very limited areas in Kenya, actually. So you could have potentially seen them there, as well as to Ethiopia. So it's basically into areas where there's less water. It's more arid in those sorts of places. I have never seen a Grevy zebra. I have in a zoo. I have never seen one in real life wild. It's one of those things I really do want to see. So if you just go a little bit further north, we're in a very high average rainfall area here in the Mara. If you go further north to where there's less rainfall, you would find the Grevy's zebra. Very, very small, isolated populations of the most endangered species of zebra. I really want to see one. It's on my list of to-do things. They've got such weird stripe patterns. They look like barcodes somehow. I don't quite know how to explain what I mean. Alright, well, the fact that the zebra are wending their way up the mountain means that it's time for the Mara team to do so too. For those of you joining us on certain platforms, if this is the end of your safari, the safari will continue if you just Google Safari Live. So for the rest of you watching in the normal platforms, we're going to be going to the Safari Live logo very briefly, but don't go anywhere. Your safari